Have you ever looked at your relationship and, just wondered if you're truly with the right person? Or maybe you're just in love with the idea of them? Well, today in this explainer, we're going to challenge that whole societal myth of the perfect partner. We're diving into the 20 subtle signs you are actually with a truly high-value partner. Because let's face it, we all grew up absorbing a very specific narrative about what to look for, right? But the truth is, the qualities that actually predict a lasting, deeply fulfilling partnership, they're almost invisible in the beginning. So we're going to break down the deep, quiet, and honestly, profoundly unglamorous psychological markers of lasting love.
Okay, let's dive into this because this contrast right here is exactly where so many of us get completely stuck. On one side, you have the checklist. We all know it. It's that Hollywood fantasy we grew up with, the rom-com lead making some grand sweeping gesture in the pouring rain. We're taught to look for someone attractive, wealthy, charismatic, basically the person who lights up a room. But so many people spend their entire 20s and 30s chasing that exact checklist, only to find themselves in these relationships that look super impressive on the outside, but actually feel entirely empty or even unsafe on the inside. Then, on the other side, we have the research-backed reality. A truly high-value partner is secure. They're consistent, they're emotionally mature. Sure, these traits don't exactly photograph well for social media, but they are absolutely the foundation of true relationship security.
So, that brings us to our first major section, surviving the worst moments, or how they handle your storm. Because, listen, literally anyone can be charming on a fun first date over drinks. A partner's true character is actually revealed in the friction of those messy 3 in the morning moments when life gets really hard. Psychologists call this responsiveness under stress. It's basically the ability to stay present and supportive when you are incredibly anxious, sick with the flu, or just completely falling apart. And get this is actually one of the absolute strongest predictors of relationship security that research has ever identified. A high-value partner doesn't need you to be perfectly composed to stay close to you. When you are at your absolute worst, they don't flinch away, they don't disappear, and they don't get irritated. Instead, they lean right in.
And this brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast in how conflict is handled. Take a look at the low-value reactions. These usually involve things like the silent treatment, or apologies that sound a little bit like, "I'm sorry, but." And you know as well as I do that but completely cancels out the apology. It's a trade, it's not a genuine repair. On the other hand, high-value reactions look like a partner just plainly saying, "You know what, I was wrong." Or maybe they circle back a few hours after a heated argument to heal that emotional loop. Repairing after a conflict like this requires a really secure sense of self. They don't have this fragile ego that just desperately needs to win at all costs. They literally care more about the relationship being whole than they do about being right.
Which brings us to a really fascinating psychological concept called differentiation. It's a subtle sign for sure, but man, it changes everything. Differentiation is the ability to stay emotionally connected to a partner without completely losing oneself in their emotional state. So if you're having a terrible, no-good day, a secure partner can sit right there with your bad mood without immediately spiraling into anxiety themselves. They don't catch your bad mood like a cold. They prove they can handle your heavy emotions without absorbing them as some sort of personal attack, or frantically trying to fix you just to make themselves feel better. Moving right along, that brings us to our second pillar, the architecture of safety. This is all about quiet consistency when no one is watching.
Here, we're shifting our focus away from intense conflict and looking at everyday boundaries. You've probably heard of this one. It's famously known as the waiter test. It means paying very close attention to how someone treats a waiter, a customer service worker, basically a stranger. Why? Because character that is only displayed when there's something to be gained, that's not character at all. That's just a performance. A person who is unfailingly kind to you but totally dismissive to a stranger is literally giving you a sneak preview of how they will eventually treat you the day you stop being useful to them.
Building true safety also relies on these everyday patterns. First up, speaking fairly of exes. If every single one of their past partners is framed as crazy or evil, that is a massive red flag. It's a psychological defense called externalized responsibility, meaning they simply can't see their own role in the conflict. Second, keeping tiny promises. Behavioral researchers have shown that small, repeated reliability, like, remembering to grab that specific brand of coffee you like, literally builds a fortress of safety for your nervous system over time. And finally, respecting your no without laying on a massive guilt trip. They inherently understand that love thrives in freedom, not in control.
I want you to just pause on this question for a second. Think about your last meaningful conversation or even an argument with your partner. Do they listen to understand or just to reply? Were they just sitting there quiet, reloading their rebuttal in their head while you were still talking? Or did they offer you the incredibly healing gift of being deeply, truly heard without any judgment? Because true listening tells your heart that your voice has a safe, permanent place in their world.
Okay, on to our third section, making space for growth. Here, we'll be focusing on power, vulnerability, and evolution.
A truly high-value partner doesn't just make you feel safe, they actively make room for your personal success, and they're totally comfortable being vulnerable with you. Sharing power is a monumental sign of this. You see, fragile egos treat not knowing as a huge threat, but a secure partner, they are totally comfortable saying, "I don't know," or "Hey, I was wrong," with absolutely no shame spiraling. Renowned relationship researcher Dr. John Gottman actually found that a partner's genuine willingness to be influenced and changed by love, rather than just treating the relationship as their own personal domain to control, is an absolute hallmark of true intimacy. They are totally fine with losing an argument because they don't experience losing as a diminishment of their self-worth.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the concept of capitalization. This refers to exactly how partners respond to each other's good news and joy. You might assume that how you handle arguments is the ultimate test of a relationship, right? But researchers have actually found that a partner's enthusiastic, non-competitive reaction to your success is a stronger predictor of relationship satisfaction than how you handle conflict. Seriously, if you get a promotion and their joy for you is immediate, without any subtle, sneaky need to one-up you, that tells you everything. It tells you they see you as a teammate, not a competitor.
And that leads us to sign number 17. I really want to emphasize this one because it's a profound sign that almost nobody talks about. They can tolerate your evolution. You are going to go through seasons of growth. It's inevitable. Now, a low-value partner will often experience your personal growth as deeply destabilizing. They'll actually subtly resist it because, frankly, the relationship worked better for them when you were smaller. But a high-value partner does the exact opposite. They meet your evolution with genuine curiosity and absolute pride, even when it means the dynamic of the relationship has to shift to make room for who you are becoming.
Now we've reached our final section, the ultimate signs, the quietest markers of lasting love. This is where we look at how a truly healthy relationship fundamentally shapes your own identity and literally regulates your nervous system over the long haul. Psychologists call this the Michelangelo effect. It's this beautiful and sometimes a little daunting idea that our closest relationships slowly sculpt us into a version of ourselves over time. I urge you to pay very, very close attention to your own dynamic here. Does your relationship subtly require you to shrink, to be a little quieter, or maybe less ambitious just to keep the peace? Or does it make you feel safe enough to take up way more space, laugh louder, and become the absolute most vibrant, authentic version of yourself? Because a high-value partner is actively sculpting you toward your ideal self. And here we are at the ultimate sign. Sign 20, peace. In an insecure relationship, silence immediately triggers anxiety. You sit there wondering, oh my gosh, what did I do? Are they mad at me? But in a genuinely secure relationship, silence is, well, it's just silence. They're just reading a book or thinking, and it doesn't mean something is fundamentally broken. True high value is absolutely not found in roller coaster intensity, constant drama, or this exhausting hypervigilance. The truest marker of a high value partner is the calm, quiet certainty of absolute peace.
So the big question I want to leave you with today is this: are you ready to recognize your own worth? Because attracting this kind of high-value sanctuary requires you to finally stop settling for breadcrumbs. It requires you to stop trying to teach someone how to love you. You have to truly, deeply believe you are worthy of this kind of quiet, powerful love. And ultimately, you must become a high-value partner yourself. Remember, the love you are looking for isn't some magical fairy tale. It's a daily choice built entirely on character. So are you brave enough to make space for it?